Ah, 37. So, okay, they are arriving. So.
Yes, so we're also online on YouTube live.
Okay, like last year, so you're going to make a video recording like last year we were on YouTube.
Yeah, it will be absolutely the same.
Okay.
So hello and welcome to the French-Italian Day for Early Career Researchers 2022. I see that some of you are still arriving, the participants are still arriving. Few words of welcome in French. Bonjour et bienvenue à la journée franco-italienne des jeunes chercheurs 2022. Nous, l'association Bernard Grégory, l'Université de Turin, l'Université franco-italienne sont très ravis de vous accueillir aujourd'hui. Donc, nous allons démarrer d'ici quelques instants.
Buongiorno, un saluto italiano, benvenuti. Siamo contenti, vi ringraziamo per aver aderito, a esservi iscritti alla giornata, all'edizione del 2022 della giornata franco-italiana dei giovani ricercatori e fra qualche minuto inizieremo. Vi ringrazio da parte dell'Università di Torino, dell'Associazione Bernard Grégory di Parigi e dall'Università italo-francese che ha sede a Grenoble e a Torino.
So the event will be moderated by Lucia Salto, Career Development Facilitator for PhDs at the University of Turin, and myself, Christina Bjerke, Training and International Project Manager at Association Bernard Grégory. The program will consist of 3 parts: our tips of networking practices, followed also by a short break. Then the round table with representatives of French, Italian, and also European companies and organizations. And finally, a round table with PhD holders who work in the French-Italian space, but also internationally. So we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat box and tell us what country and also institution you are from. For the official opening, I'm pleased to welcome Gaël Caldera, coordinator of the French-Italian University, Eleonora Bonifacio, Dean of the Doctoral School and the University of Turin, and Melike Reolé, Head of International Cooperation at APG. Please, we will start with Gaël.
Thank you, Christina. I'm sharing my presentation with you. So just 1 second.
No, scusi, Cristina, je pense qu'il y avait avant i saluti d'ouverture de le directeur de notre école doctorale.
Do you want me to stop maybe?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Oh, well. Gaël, please go first.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'm sharing again my presentation with you. Just a second, please. Now I think you are, yes, you see my presentation, right? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Did you know that the French-Italian Day for Early Career Researchers has awarded the French-Italian University label for the 2nd year? That's a label for a quality label for French-Italian projects with high cultural and academic value. So congratulations for the organization of this event. I am Gaël Caldera, coordinator of the French-Italian University. Thank you for being here with us today. I thank the Association Bernard Grégory for the invitation at this important event for young researchers in Europe. Just a few words about the French-Italian University. It promotes the relations between French and Italian researchers, groups of researchers, and especially young researchers. It's very important for us to keep strong relations and active collaborations between our 2 research communities. And the involvement of young researchers is really encouraged in our programs. Be the future of the European research. At the French-Italian University, we have 6 annual or biannual calls for different types of grants. For instance, we have grants for master's double degree programs. We have also 3-year scholarships for PhD students in joint supervision. We have postdoctoral research grants, grants for international mobility of researchers, of visiting professors. There is also the label for conferences, seminars, cultural events, publications, traductions. And finally, we have 2 award programs. Just one more thing, if you need more information about the French-Italian University and our programs, you can visit our website. Do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. Here is my email address and the email address of my colleagues in Torino. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you a good event and a pleasant day, and I will hand over to Christina.
Thank you very much, Kael. Just to check that the chat box should now be working. And for the opening, we will continue with Eleonora, please.
Okay, first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon to give my greetings to this event. I think that this kind of event can give an idea to PhD students or PhD holders of what happens next. And in such a world that becomes smaller and smaller every day, I think that this event that point to the cooperation between researchers of different countries should really be the rule in the future. I am Eleonora Bonifacio, as you know from the label, and I'm the director of the PhD school of the University of Torino. This PhD school is quite big because it groups PhD courses going from humanities to STEM disciplines. So I'm really glad that today you will have the opportunity, thanks to the organizers, to listen to the experiences of people coming from very different fields of studies. So I'm sure this will be a really fruitful afternoon, and I hope that you PhD students and PhD holders will get very useful tips for a bright career in the future. I want to thank really much the organizers of this event, which are Cristina Berkut and Lucia Salto, as well as the French-Italian University and the other organizing parties. Thank you very much for inviting me, and have a nice time.
Thank you, Eleonora. Elike, please.
Thank you very much, Christina. Good afternoon, everyone. So I would like to take this opportunity to present really quickly ABG and how we can be helpful to the audience. So students, researchers, but also institutions and recruiters. So ABG is a French non-profit organization dedicated to career development and recruitment of doctoral students and PhDs, especially outside academia. So we have 3 main activities. The first one is recruitment. On our website, we have a job board with offers for internship opportunities, thesis topics, but also job opportunities in and outside academia for all fields. Second, we also help, companies recruit PhDs. Second activity would be trainings. So we give trainings about different aspects of career development, career planning, and job search strategy for PhD candidates and PhDs. Third activity is information. So on our website, on our social media accounts, through the events that we organize, we give information about mobility opportunities, funding opportunities, testimonials from PhDs who changed paths, or testimonials from recruiters who explain why they want to work with PhDs. So all these activities in France and at the international level, especially in Europe. So cross-border activities are especially important for us because research by definition is international, and researchers are mobile. And we organize several events, physical on-site events or webinars, workshops, career workshops, also with partners, for example, from Germany, Luxembourg, UK, North America. So these events are very useful in terms of information, but also in terms of networking opportunities. So I hope that this second French-Italian day for early career researchers will be the same. It will help you answer some of your questions and provide you with information, but also collaboration and networking opportunities. So I would like to thank again all our partners, the speakers, but also the participants for being here. And I give the floor back to Christina.
Thank you very much, Melike. Thank you very much, Nora Gael, for this opening ceremony. Before our main part, which is 2 roundtables, there will be also a short intervention on networking and importance of the networking. I will share my screen. Also, a quick message to participants. So please don't hesitate to ask your questions in the Q&R sections, and we will try to reply to as many of your questions as possible. So really don't hesitate. And of course, you are more than welcome to chat among yourself in the chat box. So thank you for the ones who are presenting, introducing themselves. Please continue doing so. We are reading your introduction, even if we are not reacting to this, but it's nice to see all participants from different countries, cities taking part in this event. So about this, sharing this screen. So why networking? Well, first of all, the overall theme of this second French-Italian day is to show the benefits, first of all, of networking, and also to create a meeting space with company representatives and PhD holders who are now working in social economic sector. So what networking is about, just to be sure that we share the same meaning. It is, first of all, about making connections, meeting people that will lead you to some point meet other people, whether it's virtually or physically. And of course, we can help you implement your career plan, and that someday you can help also others as well in implementing of their career plan. So here's a question for you to answer in the chat box. Do you network? How? With whom? How do you feel about networking? So please put your answer in the chat box. So how do you find networking? Is it difficult for you? Do you network? How often? And have you ever tried it before, and in what context? So please, I will be waiting for a short moment to see also your answers on your networking practice. So I'm checking on some of your answers. Networking is good, but part of the work should remain in person. Yeah. Try my best, but it becomes hard when you don't know the local language. Okay, the linguistic part. Taking to guest lecture at university, talk to fellow researchers around the lab. Okay, when you did internships, great. Networking is essential, wonderful. Networking has cons and pros, of course, in different culture. There's that's important part also to take into consideration the cultural codes while networking. So thank you for these first reactions. Of course, there's many reflections, or shall I do networking or not? Sometimes could be also feeling that, well, networking is good for someone, but personally, I want to be evaluated on my own merits. Or people are usually too busy. I don't want to bother them with my questions, or I have my pride. I don't want to owe anything to anyone, or it's maybe culturally, once again speaking, it's not a common practice, for example, in my country or even in my sector. But actually, when you change the perspective, let's imagine if someone get in touch with you and try to ask for advice, how would you react if someone asked for information? So I bet you would agree to help. So in networking, consider yourself as an expert in your field. You are not just the person in demand of information. You can also give your knowledge in return. Your knowledge, or let's say also a satisfaction of helping someone. This is really a win-win situation. About benefits and why networking is important. First, through the meeting of people working in a company or in position that interests you, you get ideas and tips on how to develop your career plan. And while transitioning from, let's say, academia to private sector, it's very much important to know exactly what is expected. And also trying to check whether a company or a job matches you or not, because you're also recruiting your job and your company. Then you would know exactly what is expected from you as a candidate. If there, for example, a similar position open, and you would know exactly what skills and experience you must put forward. So you can also identify opportunities that are not yet publicized or not yet created just by speaking with people, with company representatives, and maybe also by identifying their needs. Plus, if you're recommended by someone, there's a reference. So your application will have more weight, and there are better chances of having a recruitment interview. So networking is not a way to ask for a job. It's a way to get insightful information and get visible in a professional circle by also being a professional. So some ideas on how can you grow your network. First, well, the ideas that some of you already mentioned is to care about activities of your colleagues and people you meet in your lab. For example, salespeople, company representatives that are also in touch with your lab, some research fellows, postdoctoral researchers. They might be also have some previous experience in company. You would never know without chatting with people. There's also a good way in attending or organizing professional events, whether it's conferences, some meetings, job events, or seminars. So you have plenty of different formats to try to get in touch with people and also to get visible. Another option would be a part of a professional networks, whether it's student network, alumni, for example, from your former school, university, or from your extra professional activities. You do sports, you do some art activities, for sure you can meet some interesting people there. Also give visibility to your own activities. For example, explaining your activities to your current network on LinkedIn, or also by participating in forums or in different discussions in these groups on LinkedIn once again. And the biggest part would be leading networking interviews with professionals. So this can be contacts of your contacts, for example, using also a simple keywords search on the internet or on LinkedIn by checking on interesting profile in some themed groups that are similar to your profile or who are now occupying positions that you are interested in. Of course, these ones are just few ideas and you don't have to do all of this at once in the space of 1 week. Of course, be selective and start by things you're comfortable with. And also always try to settle your goals according to what your main goal is. For example, for now, you are still on the research contract, but you would also like to know about other opportunities. So little by little, by meeting people, you advance also in your networking goals. There's some golden rules that you can follow that also can help you to be comfortable in this networking approach. First, recommendation or references. So it's very much useful in expanding your network. For example, start with people you know, your PI or your colleagues, and ask them whether they could recommend you someone who, for example, now is working in a company, or maybe also try to identify some elements in common. Maybe you followed some similar trainings, but you're not exactly from the same class, if we're talking about the alumni network, or you have some common professional interests, whether it's for a profession, a theme, or a sector. And if you're a PhD candidate or already a PhD holder, remember that PhD is a great key, a great element in common to get in touch with other PhDs, because for sure they've been there, they know how it is to transit from academia to private sector. Another rule would be reciprocity. Networking is always a win-win process, but it doesn't require the reciprocity in a two-way. So it's more like a circle. A helps B, B helps C, C will one day help A. So don't worry about this feeling that what can I give in return? Once again, sometimes it's just a pleasure to share the information to be useful for someone. And from there goes another rule is professional to professional relations. So of course you have to adapt positive attitude. It will be up to you to lead the discussion among colleagues. But once again, your colleagues. And of course, some tips on effective communication, such as simple presentation, in a very clear and concise way when you explain your background and what do you expect from your interlocutor. So when your request is clear, and when you have the right approach, usually it often works. In networking, it works. Also, some ideas on information you can get from this networking discussion. Usually, try to imagine some open questions. Show your interest in person, in their background. And of course, collect some useful information for you about work, about sector, about market tendencies, but also skills needed. Salary, very much important question, and vocabulary. It's a very rare information. And for example, if prior to applying for a company position, you've always been in academia, so of course you use some academic vocabulary, which is often not similar to what is common for the companies. And another thing that you can also ask is a new contact to meet. Once again, networking is about meeting people. So one important element would be also whether the person could recommend you another person to help you in advancing in your career plan. So there's just short to-do list, and of course, once again, you will have to adapt it according to your main goal. First, really small goals. For example, at events, limit yourself to 2 or 3 contacts in the evening. You don't have to chat with the whole room of people. Or, for example, 1 networking interview every 2 months. And of course, choose professionals who have, let's say, 3 to 5 years of experience prior to yours. So someone who's still in junior position and who still remember how it feels to be a fresh PhD holder wondering what shall I do next. On LinkedIn also, for example, share your content, some PowerPoint presentation, videos, articles, posters. It could be just once per week, but always explain why you decide to share this information. And then also try to join some relevant groups and participate in discussions. Another thing will be prepare your pitch. So pitch is a short presentation of who you are. And there's some easy and simple things to be aware of. First, try to articulate your name and position so your interlocutor could remember who you are. Then, what you do? So present simply and clearly your background. And what you're looking for. Are you looking for information or advice? And of course, this part will depend on the context. Then, when you know ahead who you might meet at networking event or for a networking interview, of course, search for information to prepare relevant questions. After that, of course, keep in touch with your network. Follow their career development, congratulate them, send them some news, ask for news. So it's tiny things that will help you to stay in touch. So it is also important to understand that you have to live networking. It's not just something that you do prior to find a job position. It's really your life, your lifestyle, something that you do on a daily basis. And of course, it also will come with practice. So practice, network, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn is very much important in networking. You will see how easy it could go in expanding your network and maintaining contacts through LinkedIn. So now it's your turn. Use also the French-Italian Day as an opportunity of networking. We will have a little bit time for your questions. I see there's some questions and also reactions in discussion.
I can read
yes,
them
please,
for you.
Lucia.
Networking is very important for my part. I'm starting to have small network, but through conferences.
It's good. So just to comment on that, conferences is great. Some conferences also invite some industrial partners if your goal is to go to this private sector. So just focus maybe on this part. Well, if you want to stay in academia, so it's good.
I think networking, Monia Ben, Hilda, is important. I think networking is important, especially nowadays, but it is not always easy to initiate the conversations or ask for advice. It's difficult, it's true, at the beginning.
It absolutely is. And if one day you will meet someone who will say, oh, I'm so great in networking, it's so easy for me, and I feel very much comfortable by meeting new people and asking them for advice, don't trust this person. No, of course, well, networking is a muscle. Networking is a skill. So it goes easily with practice. Sometimes, try to approach maybe the person who are also alone, the person who or maybe who smile you if we're talking about the events, or if we're talking about LinkedIn, so someone who has a similar background. So you will feel more comfortable also in explaining why you decided to get in touch with this person. The person will also be able to understand your request easily and to reply positively to your request. And little by little, you will find your own way how to network, how to also approach people. What will be your own tips on that? So little by little, what is comfortable with you? Try to do this. If there's more comments.
In general, I make moderate networking. Sometimes I struggle to find ice-breaking words.
What do you mean by ice-breaking words? Something smart to say, or networking? Sometimes the easy chat would be the most simple and good idea to do. So of course you don't think about networking as something where you have to impress people. It's too much pressure for every one of us. If we go on networking events, say like, I need to say something good, something smart, something that that people would be able to recall on my background. Well, sometimes it creates too much stress, and under stress, well, we have this tendency maybe to forget some important information. For example, even to say what our name is. So just relax and do small chat like, hi, why are you here? Like, or with what company, with what institution?
Leila Pishi, it's my biggest problem. I have a problem to make network.
So the problem is what? Could you repeat, Lucia, please?
It's my biggest problem. I have a problem to network, to network. Probably it's difficult. Maybe she must be shy.
Could you develop on this? And at the same time, I see also the comment from Stefano, this some people seems natural in networking. Once again, in my opinion, it's just because they practiced a lot. They have this tendency, maybe they to be present in networking events. But once again, you have to start somewhere by approaching maybe, yes, junior profiles, by asking like, why you're here, or introducing yourself. So, or if there was some, let's say, a talk, like a conference prior, a quick question. So, what do you think about the conference we just heard, we just saw? Or like the really easiest way to start a conversation, for example, is if there's a cocktail around about food. Oh, it's a nice, I don't know, canapes around. Did you try this one or that one? Really something easy. Also about staying in touch with people. It's true that sometimes it's a way easier to create a new contact than maintain these contacts. And in time of the effort you will put in it, it's of course it's more time consuming, but it's something that very useful one day, and you will also find a comfortable way of doing this. So for example, I mentioned LinkedIn. So if you have a profile on LinkedIn, I hope you all have a profile on LinkedIn and that your profile is up to date. Ask if you can add the person on LinkedIn and sometimes check on the information, and you will see that when we share common interests, and especially if we're coming from the same sector, there's actually some useful information for you. Or maybe you were discussing some new trends in chemistry, and then you saw some article similar to what you've been discussing with your interlocutor. Why not to send this article sharing, saying that, oh, I just saw this article and I found this interesting, or what we've been discussing about new materials and so on. This is just a random example. But really, you don't have to imagine a very complex way to get in touch with person. Sometimes the easiest way, the most simple, is what works better.
Just some commentary. For example, as a fresh, I struggle keeping in touch with people. Any suggestions?
Yeah, well, once again, LinkedIn really, it's what I'm using, and that's why I'm also advising of LinkedIn. It's like your, your agenda, your all your contacts. You can see also it's a way to catch up with people. Of course, we cannot follow each day the career growth of the whole network we have there, but from time to time check in whether, like this person now is working in a new company or a new position. Also, what is good with LinkedIn is that you receive sometimes quick notification where there's something new. So it's also the way to get in touch. Whether you are a member of a LinkedIn group, be visible there, launch a discussion. Really, it's the easiest way. Of course, then if you have, if you're more phone call person, from time to time you can call. But what I see, what I also hear from different PhD holders, that will now, like, let's be transparent, who are using phones nowadays. So like usually it's like video platforms like Zoom or others, or LinkedIn, and then some other platforms, but less email, less phone calls. So don't think about this professional social media as something very time-consuming. Think about this as a gadget that actually helps you. And this is actually what it does.
I find people more natural in networking. It's true. It is true.
Yeah, well, I already commented on this. Well, just the practice. They like fake it until you make it, and yeah, well, this is what I invite you to practice. Like create an event even here. So in a few minutes you will meet some company representatives and also PhD holders. Well, get in touch with them, and then you'll see what's going on, whether they will be open to a discussion and how it goes. But usually people are nice. So even if you know that you're less comfortable, less natural in networking, it's fine. No one will say you, oh, you don't look natural. I don't want to network with you. No, of course not. The people anyway, if they see that you're a little bit stressed or uncomfortable, they will help you. Well, at least I hope so, that you will network with nice people who will also encourage you in this practice.
The issue is that we have always learned that we must show that we are already aware about the company or the team. It makes confusion with just spontaneous discussion,
Well, let's say if it's a very tiny topic, a discussion where they're just company representatives, maybe, yeah, of course you cannot mention some names or some new products because you're not aware, but be transparent, be clear and with your goals. It's fine to say that I'm just, I'm a researcher, I'm a PhD holder, and I'm interested in your company. And it's true that I have a background in academia, but I'm sure that my skills could be useful for the private sector also. And I'm just trying to figure out how and on what projects you are working. So when you pretend to say like, oh, for example, if your interlocutor tells you, so I'm from Total Energies, and you will pretend, oh yeah, I know your company, I know all your projects. In this case, yeah, later or sooner, the person will notice that, oh, actually, the person doesn't know much. And it's just the expectations that are not met. But if you acknowledge that, oh, well, of course, I heard about your company, but I don't know exactly whether you hire PhD holders, whether there's a place what your projects exactly is about. Be transparent. It's totally fine for you, especially while transitioning, not know like these professional sectors, trends, and so on. So you are there in these events and you are approaching these people to learn. But sometimes it's just the question of clear request. So when you specify that you're here to get the information, of course, no one will say, well, how it's possible that you don't know our projects and our partners? So I know that networking is the very huge topic. I would really encourage you practicing this, and especially like in a few minutes, also continue being present, commenting on, and asking your questions. So now we will do a short break. I know that I will read all of your comments, and if you have some more questions afterwards on networking approaches, of course, you're very much welcome to get in touch with me for more advice. So now we will go on break, a 15 minutes break, And then we will continue with the first round table with company representatives. So
Okay.
stay with us and see you in even 14 minutes.
Tous mes compliments, Christina, tu as été très efficace. Buongiorno Simone. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Stavo guardando, siete solo in 2, mancano ancora, no, 3, quindi manca Stellantis e Cristina, tu avais, ça y est, le Zoom avec Carlo Barbera? Et cela marchait. Ok, alors il faut l'attendre. Alors, Rossane Brachet est là, Simona Campolongo est là, Simone Olgiati, donc on attend Estelle Blandin et Carlo Barbera.
Solo una domanda perché ho caricato il mio sfondo ma lo vedo speculare, voi lo vedete giusto?
Aspetti che guardo. Sì, si vede giusto, sì, sì.
Ah, ok, allora deve essere Zoom che mi fa vedere l'immagine
Anch'io lo
da
vedo al
specchio.
contrario, sì, penso che sia... Christina, nous avons un écran un peu différent. We have a little bit different virtual screen. Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, it's fine. Like, it's still
Okay, it's
the
same.
French Italian. They just, not to be too flashy.
I don't know.
Altogether.
I received this one and I uploaded this one.
Me too.
There have been up to now lots of questions, so our PhD are quite interactive because they are writing in the chats. It was about networking, difficulties encountered in network. Christina was very good. So now 5 minutes, still 5 minutes.
Yeah, still 5 minutes. So
Yeah. Bonjour.
Hello.
Eccoci. So we are all there. Buongiorno. Bonjour.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Just a
yes,
quick
yes, we can
chat
hear
of
you very
the
well.
of
Good
all
news.
cameras, all mics. So I'm also hoping that before Lucia, you give the floor to invite all participants to be back to your screens for this roundtable discussion with company representatives that is now starting.
Hello, everybody. So we started in time. Let's get started with the second part of our Franco-Italian Day for early career researchers. Let me first express my gratitude. My gratitude goes to all the panelists who kindly accepted our invitation. So, and since it is a Franco-French-Italian Day, you know, it was it was very well balanced, and I think that this round table is also, as you can see, representative of big companies, medium-sized company, and so on, startup. So different realities, and offering opportunity to early career researchers. So you are also you are PhD, so you perfectly know the meaning of the value, the plus of a PhD, and maybe the pros and cons, difficulties encountered when you start a career in non-academic context. So let's start. Thank you very much to Roxane Brachet, PhD in Public Health and Epidemiology, Research and Platform Department at Grenoble Biocluster, France. And thank you. If you can very briefly introduce yourself, tell us something about your background, your current position, what are you expecting from PhD, for which position you are recruiting PhDs, and thank you for giving us also a final key message.
Roxane, are you here?
Otherwise,
let's maybe continue with Carlo.
So maybe also, maybe she was there before, maybe she's, hopefully she has no technical problems. So anyway, so we start with Carlo Barbera, PhD in biomedicine, senior project manager, corporate research and development, Alpha Sigma, an important pharmaceutical company. Everybody knows it. So he is himself a PhD, so he perfectly knows the meaning of, for a researcher deciding to move to other sectors. So, and thank you for your presentation, your concise presentation, because we have lots of questions for you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much. And I'll be very quick. So my name is Carlo Barbera. I'm a scientist by training because I graduated in biotechnology, and I've got a PhD in biomedicine, virology specifically. And as Lucia said, I'm currently a senior project manager for corporate research and development at Alpha Sigma, which is, yes, one of the largest Italian pharmaceutical companies. So we have little time, so I want to go straight to the point. Why industry wants or should want PhDs, and what makes PhDs different from other professionals? Well, I think the answer is that we live in a very complicated world. And if we didn't realize it before the pandemic, now I think it's crystal clear to everybody that we cannot keep on doing things the way we used to do it before. So we definitely need people who are trained to think, who are used to make themselves difficult questions, and who are used to try to answer those questions. So in short, what industry wants from PhD? They want your brain. They want your critical thinking. They want your ability to think outside of the box and to find new solutions to new challenging problems. And this is, I think, what really makes PhDs different. Their creativity, their ability, and also their habit to innovation. I think it's just simple as that. From my point of view, I think it's very important to forget about the hard skills. Hard skills have been recently dead, I think. If you haven't already worked for a project that are of company or corporate interests, I don't think that's a big problem, because again, it's the way of thinking that company should or want to buy. It's what you can or are willing to be able to do with your soft skills, and not what you've done in the past. I mean, not strictly what you've done from the hard skills point of view. Now, I've been asked also to talk about the recruitment process in our company, but I don't want to bother you with the details of the recruitment process. I would like to give you maybe some advices about how I think you can get your foot into the door of the industry. And from my perspective, there are three main critical factors to do that. And these are preparation, preparation, preparation. Why do I stress this factor of preparation? Because the most successful, I think, factor to get your foot into the industry is to be prepared to the way industry do interviews. And I want to be very clear on this point because I think it's crucial. There are no excuses not to be prepared. Today, we have a lot of access to a lot of information, tons of information you have at disposal, and PhDs, young PhDs have to be ready to this process. So I wanted to give you some maybe advices from my point of view of what are the do's and don'ts in the recruitment process that can help you overcome some of the difficulties of this process, because it's really, it's a 9-inning boxing match, an interview with the company. So for the do, definitely do your homework. What that means, if you're interested in a position, don't just send your application. Research the company, try to understand why they have the vacancy open. Is this a new position, for example, or somebody left, or maybe they're trying to build a new facility or a new department inside the company. Understand who is the hiring manager and who is involved in the recruitment process. Again, here, no excuses. You're living in a social media era, so you have to leverage social media wisely to get an edge on your perspective to work for the company. About the don'ts, I just said that don't simply send your application. That would be some kind of waste of time. You have the same chance to be chosen as you have the same chance of winning the lottery if you just send an application. You will be put together with a whole lot of competition, and or worse, your CV will be screened by an ATS, which is an applicant tracking system, a computer, to put it bluntly. So you don't want that. What do you really want is to stand out from the crowd. So in order to do that, another do is get in contact with people. Try to connect, try to engage with them, try to get as many informations as you can. One thing you don't want to do, on the contrary, is just to forward your CV to these people. Because that would be really gross, I say. What you want to do is to show them you're curious. So just engage with the people and say, hello, my name is Carlo, for example, and I saw you posted this position for this new position and would be keen to know more. So try to engage with the conversation. And here I come to probably what I think is the most important do of all. Do make questions. Because if you're lucky enough to get to the interview with the company, at some point you will get to the point where you're asked, do you have any question for me? And now I can tell you very, very easily that if you say no, I'm just fine, I got everything, I got all the information I need, well, that candidate very hardly would be hired. That's guaranteed. So that's the moment where you want to make questions. Make open questions, questions that the answer is not strictly yes or no, but they're open. So you show interest. For example, you can ask, what is the thing that you like it most about working for that company? Or what is the biggest challenge that your company is facing, and how the new hire can help overcome this challenge? Or how will be my job evaluated so that I can have a positive impact on the organization? This is your chance to get more information, to get an edge, and to show curiosity, and to show that you're really a good fit for that job. So don't waste it. So finally, my take-home message will be, do what you can do best. Be creative, get notice. And the best thing to do that is to make practice. Start early, start now, even during your PhD, to make your connection, and rehearse, repeat how to manage an interview. And I cannot assure that, but I'm pretty sure that the right opportunity will come up. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for such a brilliant presentations. You know, Alpha Sigma is one of the top 5 pharmaceutical companies in Italy. So are you recruiting PhD? Aren't you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's my question.
Yes,
going to the
PhDs
point.
are required more and more for a number of roles, which is not restricted to research and development, of course. Of course, research and development is where there is the higher concentration of PhDs, but things are getting bigger for PhDs also in other company functions, like, for example, regulatory affairs. So the function inside the company where our people interact with the regulatory agencies, which are those agencies that actually granted the permission to market a drug. Also a patent, the legal and the patent aspect are very, very hungry of PhDs, because they have that knowledge, technical knowledge, and they can really understand technical matters from a very inside out point of view. So yes, technically there is no limit to PhDs to where they can work inside a company. And I'd really say that it's up to you to state your value, and to make sure that this value is appreciated and regarded as an added value to the company.
There is a question for you. What types of information is essential to be reflected into a cover letter about a company out of our research while applying for a job?
Well, I think cover letter can be a matter of debate. I'm not an expert in HR, so I'll just give you my take. Cover letter is not always necessary. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I prefer cover letters. If I don't think there is a specific matter that you have to cover on a cover letter. What I always like to see in a CV or in a cover letter or wherever, any application, is something that is intriguing me, is interesting me. So try to tell a story, try to say something that is intriguing. Of course, you want to say who you are and why you apply for that position. And of course, why you're interested in that position and what makes you special for that position. This is something that really can be of interest for who is reading. Always remember that people who are reading are sometimes they have a very small span of attention. So try to be catchy, to be short and concise instead of too long, and maybe, you know, like Giacomo Leopardi, what is vague and not so definite sometimes is even better than too lengthy and too detailed.
So great. And I think that it goes without saying that, is there an evolution, a career evolution for PhD within your organization? So are there opportunities to grow?
Well, definitely yes. Of course, opportunities are always a matter of luck from one side, because you have to be at the right moment in the right place, but of course also personal effort. So what I think a PhD can give in terms of difference is their effort and their ability to see things from a different perspective, and this is something that is always highly regarded. So as long as you put your mind into it and do your job every day with constance and with perseverance, I think everywhere there's room for improvement. I started as a scientist. I moved to the industry as a scientist, And then after several years, I've got the opportunity to move to the management and manage research projects. But again, it was a matter of luck, because a colleague of mine went retired. So and I was there, and I had a big knowledge of the project. But also you can be even more lucky and have other opportunities. So it's pretty much up to you. But don't be too how can I say? Don't be too sad if that don't happen, because sometimes it's not up to you. Business is very complicated, and sometimes you do your best, but it's just not the opportunity. The right opportunity is given by your preparation and the fact that you're in the right spot at the right moment. So not everything is under your control, and you have to just accept it and do things good, and good things will come.
Yes, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. There are lots of questions in the chat, but I think that first of all, we need to listen to the presentation of the other panelists, and then we can leave the floor to the audience. Roxane Brachet, for being here. So from the French side, PhD in Public Health and Epidemiology, Research and Platform Department at Genopole Biocluster. So, we want to know something more about your background, your current position, if you hire PhD, about your recruitment process, and a final key message.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me and give me the opportunity to present Genopole and our funding schemes to young researchers. Can I share, if I try to share my screen here, is it partagé? Just 1 second. Yes. And if I put it as full screen, is it okay?
Yeah, it's full screen.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So I'm Roxane. I'm manager of partnerships and fundings in Genopole. More specifically, I'm in charge of academic partnerships and academic fundings that cover fundings to senior researchers as team leaders, fundings to young researchers through postdoctoral fellowships. And we also have other funding schemes to students for internships, for trainings, and other operations. So a few words about Genopole. We are a biocluster dedicated to biotechnologies, genomics, and life science applied to health or to environment. We are located in the Paris region, just at 30 kilometers from Paris region. It's the, as we say, la banlieue parisienne. So very easy to travel to Genopole. And in concrete words, we unit higher educational institutions, a university and 3 engineer schools. And you have the figure here, academic laboratories, 19 academic laboratories, 77 business companies. Companies and laboratories are all in the fields of life science, as I said, in health or in environment. And so in this environment, you have academia, private sector, and we have also technological facilities or platforms that are accessible for all the researchers, whatever they are, from the academia or from the private sectors. And here you have the distribution of the number of people on the different disciplines or research fields and innovation in Genopole. You have here 1/3 of the people who are working in gene and cell biotherapies, and around 30% in genomics and human genomics and environmental genomics or biodiversity, And we have also an important laboratory in bioinformatics and biomathematics. So all the research fields that can be applied to health or to environments are covered, or most of these fields are covered in Genopol. So it represents a huge research area in which we can host PhDs just after or their PhD, or who are more senior in their cursus. You can find more details in the annual report. And in terms of support to the researchers and to the PhD, we have several programs. As I said, we have a program for team leaders, a program for postdoctoral mobility. We also support the creation of companies. And as I said, also, we support the training and mentoring program, for example, for researchers who want to open to entrepreneurship and are interested in creation of private companies. So here I will focus on point 2 and 3, which are, I guess, more interesting for PhDs. Yeah, we have launched last year with the partnerships with ABG a program which is called Apogee Bio. It is a program to fund postdoctoral fellowships. It's co-funded by the European Commission. So, you know, it's within the field of the category of programs Marie Skłodowska-Curie co-fund. So we will open the next call, the second call of Apogee Bio this week, and the deadline will be on 30th of January. And the aim of this fellowship is to attract researchers from all over the world, from Europe or from outside of Europe and from Italy, who want to perform a postdoctorate either in an academic laboratory or in a private company. This is also possible. The hosting of postdoctoral is possible in both sectors within Genopol. It's a funding that corresponds to an average of 3,000 euros per month as a net salary, and for a total duration of 24 months. It's the usual duration of a postdoc. So on the website, you can find more details on the hosting teams, as I said, academic or private hosting teams, and you can get more details. I just show you just 30 seconds, the website. Does it work? Does it work? Is it okay? Yes. So you can,
no,
yeah.
We cannot see the website,
you cannot
see
see
the presentation.
Okay, so I come back to the presentation then. Oh. Nouveau partage. I should have not clicked on the website. Arrêter le partage. I stop it and I come back to it. Partager. Is it okay?
Yeah, we see the presentation.
The presentation, okay. So you will find more information on the website, but just keep in mind that it is 24 months, 3,000 euros net per month, hosting in academia or in private sector. And there are very specific conditions and eligibility criteria that are from the European Commission. We cannot change them. So take the time to read carefully the information that you will find on the website. For example, there is a mobility rule. It is strictly for incoming mobility. So if you are already living in France for more than 2 or 3 years, then you will not be eligible, for example. So take the time to really be aware about all the conditions and the criteria. And another obligation from the European Commission in the Marie Curie actions is that it's up to you as an applicant to make the first proposition of research. It is not what we see usually, where it's the laboratory or the company who publishes a project. Then take the time to read carefully the description of the hosting teams that are available on the website, and to draft a first proposition that fits to the hosting teams, and of course that fit also to your expectations. Yeah, so yes, I let you the time afterwards to visit the website. We have other schemes to support the creation and the development of private companies. Maybe I will start. Yeah, I will start with this one, the Shaker. You all see it. It's the Shaker from the ID to the project. It's a program in which we support young researchers from the PhD and after the PhD who have an innovative ID and you want to test, to make the proof of concept. So you apply to this program, and once again, you will have all the details in the website of Genopole. You apply to this program with your clear description of the ID, the outcome that you anticipate, the impact that you anticipate. And if you are selected to this scheme, to this call, then you are selected for a duration of 6 months. During these 6 months, you have free access. You are hosted within Genopole facilities, and you have access to laboratories with all the equipment that are necessary for research. And you have also access to the technological platform, technological facilities. So they include small but also large equipment that might be useful or necessary to your research. For example, imaging, spectro photometer, flow cytometry. We have all these technological up-to-date and cutting-edge equipments that are accessible to the people who win in this call, and all this for free during 6 months. Then after the 6 months, if you have made the proof of concept, then you can apply to another program, which is the creation of a company, and Genopole accompanies you and yes, support the second step of innovation. And if you, oh no, for young companies that are already existing or that are coming from the Shaker program, we have the program Gen.io, which is a 1-year support to already existing young company. And in this program, then we help you in, for example, to how to study and to understand the market access, how to make a fundraising, how to enhance the communication of your new company. So it is also a program of coaching and support to very young companies. And then after that, we have other programs for more mature companies. But yeah, I think the most interesting to you are already in these programs. And yeah, and that's all.
You are really offering many opportunities. So Genopole and BioCluster is really offering
we try
attractive opportunities.
Yeah, and we try to attract both in the academic sector and in the private sector. And the aim is to not to have academia and private separately, but to create interaction and collaboration.
To bridge the gap. To bridge the gap. This is also the aim, the goal of this panel discussion. So try to bridge the gap between companies and academia.
Exactly.
So there are lots of questions in the chat, but now I'm going to introduce the next speaker, and I'm just in brackets. Carlo Barbera is already replying to some questions in the chat. So because we have to, we cannot run out of the time. There is another roundtable later, and so thank you so much. If you can kindly also reply to question in the chat. You can read the chat. Okay. And I'm going to leave the floor to Simone Olgiati. This is the time of Italy. PhD in Human Genetics, Head of Innovative Sequencing Technology Lab, Merck, Italy, so a big American multinational pharmaceutical company. And he started, after his PhD, when we met before, while preparing this roundtable, I remember that he explained to me that he decided to stop working, for he had a permanent position to do a PhD. So thank you for telling our story. Thank you, Simone.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the possibility to share my experience with such a young audience. I'm not an HR professional. I'm a scientist. So what I can share today is a bit of my personal experience and also explain what are PhDs doing within Merck. I am a biologist by training. I have studied my master in Italy, and I have then spent 7 years in the Netherlands studying, completing my PhD in human genetics and performing some initial job activities in startup companies. I have then 4 years ago moved back to Italy for the position in which I am now. I am responsible for a laboratory in Merck. This laboratory is called Innovative Sequencing Technologies Lab. It's focused on the application of recent highly parallelized technologies for the sequencing of nucleic acids, and in particular in the use of these technologies for the development of analytical methods that are used in the biomanufacturing process. I am part of the Merck division that works on pharma. It's called healthcare. We are talking about the Merck group that is based in Darmstadt in Germany. And my team is made up of 5 people, so I'm responsible for all the daily activities and projects that are carried out in my lab. So I guess one of the things that is of interest for the audience is how I managed to land into this position. So I'm going to provide a couple of suggestions that are based on my personal experience. The first suggestion I'm going to give to the audience is that if you are doing a PhD and you want to move to the academia, you should definitely try to start planning this move early. And by early, I don't mean that 2 or 3 months before your PhD defense, you start to look for job positions. This is too late. You need to start in the early years of your PhD, or maybe even before you start your PhD, to really look into the market, understand what are the needs of the market, look for job positions, understand what companies are typically looking for, understand what you have of the skills they look for and what are your gaps. And the important thing is to really work on those gaps. You need to work hard to fill those gaps. So for example, in my case, I realized early in my PhD that if I wanted to have a future in industry, one of the things that was asked to geneticists was also to have some level of data analysis skills. So I've invested a lot into understanding bioinformatics, doing courses, reading books, try to do as much as possible in that space. This is just a technical example, but in fact, as it was also said before, you need to also work a lot on your soft skills. For example, work on your people management skills. This is typically not difficult in all the laboratories you have have the possibility to, for example, follow younger researchers and really help them and organize their daily activity. So this is something that typically PhD students develop. Or if you realize you have issues with foreign languages, you should definitely try to do an experience abroad, or maybe take courses on technologies in order to expand your horizon. One of the issues I think that PhDs often have is that they have a very narrow field of research. They tend to focus a lot on a very narrow field, and if they are lucky enough and that field is of interest for industry, then they are set. They will move easily to the industry. But if that narrow field, as it is most of the time, doesn't have a business case around it, they will have difficulties. So it's important that you work on all the other skills that PhD students for sure have and that were already listed early. The second tip I have is that you need to get out of your comfort zone. It's very important in very early stages of your career to do not settle on the things that you have just because starting new activities is scaring you or it requires too much challenge. It's very important that you have the courage to start something new. And in my case, Lucia was already mentioning it, even before my PhD, I really at some point decided to leave a permanent position and embark on the PhD. That was because at that time I felt like I needed to improve my English skills. I wanted to do a bit more research, and I felt like I needed the international experience to enter into the research environment. And it was not difficult because it was a couple of years after 2009, so the crisis was still close, and a permanent position in Italy was not easy to come by, but still, it was probably the best decision I've taken in my career. So I really invite you to do the same. So what are PhD doers in Merck? We recruit PhDs, of course, typically for their technical expertise. Most of the time they start with some type of scientific role, so they enter as a scientist or anyway in technical areas. But what we are really looking for are all the other skills that were already mentioned. So I'm echoing a bit Professor or Dr. Barbera. So their communication skills, their people management skills, they typically manage to deliver projects, so they have good time management skills, and they also can deliver milestones on project, and they're also fast learners and have very good problem-solving skills. So these are all things that are very difficult to find in the job market, and that's one of the reasons why we hire them. Typically, PhDs only start from the technical area. In Merck, we have a very structured program for personal development that doesn't only include PhDs. Every employee has a personal development plan that discusses regularly with his or her manager, and based on the personal attitudes, together they define learning activities in order to improve their position and prepare for the next step of their career. And the same goes for PhDs. They have to follow this type of program, and typically they will end up in all kinds of positions, quality assurance, regulatory, as well as security and environment, or in the management of equipment validation and maintenance. So really, the sky is the limit in this sense. And with this, maybe I would like to also conclude with my final remark. So I think, as I was saying, you of course need to start plan on your development early, but in fact, you always have to work on your development. It's a never-ending process that you will have to continue throughout your entire career. So the main message I would like to leave you with is that you have to challenge yourself every time. As soon as you identify a new area that can be useful to be added in your CV, but it's something a little bit far from you and makes you uncomfortable, probably is the right decision to go there and really try to tackle that problem.
Totally agree. Thank you for all these pieces of advice. Just a burning question from my side. It will be very concise. Pros and cons of working at such a big company like Merck.
But the pros for sure is that you have all the possibilities to perform advanced research. So there's typically no budget issue if you are able to demonstrate that the technology that you want to use is relevant for a business case. There is typically no problem in investing into it. So this is, of course, really rewarding for researchers, especially in their early stages. The cons is, of course, is the same, that every time you propose something, it has to be business related.
Yes, so once again, I'm just reminding to the audience, they can keep on writing question in the chat while we are completing our presentation. So once again, thank you to Simone Olgiati, and I'm now introduce Christelle Blandin, Head of Recruitment and Youth Employment Policy, Stellantis, France. But there is also Stellantis in Torino as well. And so thank you for telling us something more about your career path, your background, even for which position you are recruiting PhDs, and a final key message. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. So I'm very pleased, of course, to take part to this roundtable and to have the opportunity to speak about the Stellantis Group and about our commitments for PhD. So I'm Christelle Blandin. I'm the head of recruitment for France. I have also in charge youth employment. So it means that every year we receive internships, apprenticeships, and VIE. And I'm also in charge of schools relation. So I felt legitimate today to speak because the Stellantis Group was born, from the merger of ex-PSA and ex-FCA, so a French group and an Italian group. So maybe I'm going to make just a short presentation of Stellantis. So Stellantis is born, in fact, last year. It was in January 2021, so it's a young group, in fact. So in the past year, so we really try to work in common culture. So the group is composed now of 300,000 employees. So we are a big group in more than 150 nationalities. So the group brings together, in fact, 14 brands. So Peugeot, Citroën, Fiat, Chrysler, Maserati, Jeep, Abarth, DS, Dodge, Opel, Vauxhall, Lancia, Ram, and Free2Move. So just to give you general information, so the group has sold 6.5 million vehicles in the 2021. So we are the fourth world car manufacturer and the second in Europe. So maybe the other point, which is maybe significant now, is that maybe we are probably more international. So of course, PSA and FCA were already, represented in many countries through their different activities, so manufacturing, retail, and support functions. So maybe, and just to give maybe a focus on what we need to do now is that the projects and strategy that we have to work on. We created recently a new entity dedicated to software, and we are really focused on electrical and autonomous vehicles. So this new entity will have to work on the vehicles of the 14 brands of the group. And so from a group really oriented on manufacturing, we can see now that we are probably more focused on IT. which gives also, some perspectives for the PhD students. So I wanted maybe just to precise that the group offers to CIFRE. So it's industrial convention on training through research. Students the opportunity each year to work on specific projects in many different fields. So we have, in average, in France, 70 CIFRE. So they stay 3 years in the company. And so it means that every year we renew 1/3, in fact, of the CIFRE. So we welcome each year 20 to 30 new CIFRE in the company. And so usually, in fact, we ask the directions to make the subject emerge. So in fact, that the topics which so where we work on are the autonomous vehicle, lean tech, city of the future, and full digital. So this is the subject that we work on 2021. So in the coming weeks, we will probably have the new orientations, but it will be slightly the same, I think. And so, so each year, so we have the opportunity to have some recruitments for PhD. It's not a lot, but we have some. And recently, we have a job offer called the Research Scientist Artificial Intelligence. And it was specifically in the software direction. That's why I wanted really to share with you this new orientation for the group, because this is probably where we will probably have some new recruitments in the coming months. So what I wanted maybe to give in terms of for the PhD students, maybe to invite you to usually visit our recruitment sites. It's www.stellantis.com to be and to go into the part called Work With Us, to have a look, because as soon as we have a new opportunity, so it's of course on recruitment side, and so I invite you also to candidate online, because this is the better way for us to know that you have some interest, and after you go into a classic process for recruitment, where you will be of course invited for some interview. So yeah, so it was quite difficult for me to I didn't have an opportunity right now, but that's why I wanted to invite you to usually have a look on our recruitment site to see if there's some opportunity for you. Let's have a look.
Yes, so Stellantis is a new group, and during our webinar workshops of our trade, where we try to strengthen the soft skills of our PhD, we put the stress on the skills of the future. So artificial intelligence is a field, and it's not an unknown field.
Yes, it's one field, of course. Yes, one field. Yes, and we have some subject also on mobility. Which could be also very interesting maybe for PhD students. This is really some maybe future subjects where we are very involved. So I wanted maybe to give just an idea of the fields where maybe students can find PhD can find maybe some opportunities.
Yes, I just checked the chat if there are some new. As a PhD in applied robotics for biology, my goal is to work after my PhD in the research and development sector of a company. What advice would you give me for that?
In terms of for an application?
Yes, I think that it was about recruitment. I put it also in your private chat. As a PhD in applied robotics for biology, my goal is to work after maybe technical advices too.
Yeah, so the idea is really to, I think that point which is quite important is, of course, the curiosity and involvement and commitment in the subject, to be
motivation.
Yes, of course, motivation. So in our company, so we have many people quite passionate by cars, but it's not only the way, of course, to join the company, but yes, to be motivated, to see, or maybe to show your creativity also, in the way how you can, and the approach that you can have on the subject, and maybe how you can treat them, and of course to always have in your spec some idea of how the mobility can be, how you can have the approach for the future in a car manufacturer, because this is of course we have some environment aspects that we have to take into account in the different fields, in fact, of the company.
So definitely, so Stellantis, so a new reality, a new group, is hiring PhD. So he's looking for, is in search of excellence, is in search of brains.
Maybe just, sorry, Lucia, just a few words on the recruitment process, Christelle.
Yeah, so the recruitment process is really, so I invite people to go into the recruitment side, because this is the better way, and to apply. Of course, if you see an offer where you could be interested in, just apply online. So we are informed, and so this is the better way and the first step, of course. And after so we'll give you, I mean, the opportunity after to have some contacts with the hiring managers, and to give into details and the technical aspects maybe of the job. So yes, this is the better way.
So thank you for giving us detailed information about your new group, and we are to complete our roundtable. I'm going to introduce you Simona Campolongo. This one, so we have a woman, a young and innovative start-upper, PhD in agricultural, forest and food sciences, president and scientist at her own startup, founded by her, Grape SRL, and she is going to found another one, if I well understood. Thank you for telling us something about your success stories. Thank you, Simona.
Hi, thanks to inviting me to talk about my PhD experience. Today, I will be the one that will not explain how to be hired by a company, because I didn't follow this process, but I created, as Lucia said, my own work. I don't know if you can see the presentation.
Yes, we can perfectly see.
But not the full screen.
It's a little bit.
Could you
put it in full screen? Okay.
Now? Okay.
Yes.
I'm Simona Campolongo, and after my degree in industrial biotechnology, I took a PhD in agricultural science here in Turin. And during the PhD, I studied a particular yeast that creates problem in wine. Something that I particularly appreciated during my PhD was the possibility to visit other countries and to do foreign experiences, because I went in UK for 3 months during the first year. Then I studied in Copenhagen for 6 months, a particular microscopic technique, and then I also flew to Australia for 4 months in a special working in a at the AWRI. Soon after the PhD, together with two colleagues of the doctoral school, I founded the first company that is called Grape, which also means in Italian Gruppo Ricerche Avanzate per l'Enologia, a company that for years has provided the research and development services for wineries. In 2018, I decided that during my PhD, I did a lot of lab work, actually making plates, and a lot of plates to study this particular yeast. And in 2018, after an external request, I studied actually the market, and I discovered that there wasn't any device able to for the wineries to do their analysis in autonomy. They had to send the samples to the equipment laboratories and then wait for our results. In 2018, I decided to develop a new product for in situ analysis. It was innovative, easy, cheap, and economic. I've got 2 patents, and I founded another company, however, with a guy who was initially a student during my first year of doctorate, and then a friend. The new company is now called By Yourself and sell, let's call this product that we can call self-something, because they are called self-breath and self-beer. And they actually are offered to wineries and breweries. Now we are trying to follow our objectives through some round of crowdfunding and through fundraising. So I'm not going to tell you how to be hired from a company, but my suggestion is to not get discouraged during the doctorate, because even when it seems that nothing is working and no experiment succeeds, you are actually learning something that you will carry with you for your life. I was very fast because I've been very fast because on the agenda is written that we have to finish at 55.
No. You were very concise, as well as the others. So to show your career development, how you could little by little move. I wouldn't say to other sectors, because you founded your own company, and this is why we invited you to this panel discussion, because it is another an alternative career for PhD. Can be hired for high position because they are highly skilled, and so they're and companies, as Carlo and the other colleagues, Simone, Christel Blanden, have explained, they are looking for brains for excellence, but they can also invent their work like you, and you did it successfully, because you also took the risk, because it is difficult to leave academia and for the unknown, to leave such a comfort zone, and but it is the idea of the added value of researchers and capable of creating knowledge. So I think that there are questions.
Maybe just last quick question about language, but I will address this to all speakers. What about language skills that are needed in your companies? For example, is there French companies, applicants should speak the French, or an English would be enough? And also for Italian companies, should be a good level of Italian, or English would be also fine?
Maybe we start again with from Carlo was the first. You can answer.
Well, of course, English is mandatory nowadays. I have to make two different maybe considerations between the Italian company and then the affiliates. For the Italian company, nowadays Italian is still required because most of your colleagues will be Italian. Your environment will be Italian, so you will have a deep dive into the Italian language and Italian way of living, which can be troublesome sometimes. So yes, it's still maybe one of the biggest barrier now. Still, I think also in academic for the internationalization of enterprises and academia is that yes, Italian is still very required at the end. So I'd say that most of the open position now requires to be proficient with the Italian, unless you're applying for another country, because we have subsidiaries also in other countries, and in that case the mother language is always leading, but of course you need to be proficient in English.
Yes. Roxanne, what about languages?
Yes, about languages. In Genopole, all the laboratories and companies host international researchers. So of course, English always work, as I said, despite the Brexit. So it's not an issue. However, we support French lessons to the arriving researchers. We have a partnerships with Sciences Accueil. It's a member of Access network, and they organize courses of French, and also they organize cultural visits to help people to know more about not only the language but also the culture and the way of life à la française. So we give also this kind of support, not only funding the research, but also supporting the well-being in France and in Paris. So yes, it's not a problem at the beginning, but yeah, it's better and it's appreciated if the researcher makes the effort to learn French, the language. Yeah.
Simone?
So in our case, English is of course mandatory. For the Italian sites, in the case of positions where there is an involvement with operational activities local, typically it will mean that you have to interact with a lot of Italians, so Italian is still required. But we do have a lot of also global positions where you are coordinating sites across Europe and beyond. So in that case, only English is necessary.
Thank you. Christelle Blondet.
Yes, so for Stellantis, of course, English is really the language mandatory because we are an international group now. So, for all people, for the people who are coming in the company, so really ask the people to be able to speak in English, even if you are hired in France. Now, I mean, we have many people from many different nationalities, so really English, this is the professional language, yes.
Speak English or die. Publish or die, and so I changed it. And so, last question to Simona, because there is a question for her. Pros and cons of being an innovative startupper.
Pros and cons is that you have to face the reality. I mean, that you are a startupper, you are an entrepreneur, but not always you have your, let's say, monthly salary, the one you want at the end of the month. So you have to, this is a cons, of course, but the pro is that you are the head of yourself. I mean, if let's say that, let's do an example. I have two kids. If one day is sick, I can take it with in my laboratory that day without having a lot of problem. There are pros and cons. always we hope to be a large group, to become a large group. Let's hope.
So you are the CEO, Matepros, you are the CEO of your time.
Yeah, actually,
Somehow.
I have many guys in my group, but they usually are doing their thesis, or sometimes they are PhD, visiting PhD. So I'm actually the head of many people, but temporary people, let's say, because we are not strong enough to have a permanent position, except me.
Okay, yeah, it's clear that you are young, you are promising, so take your time. So we are finishing because we have the last online round table of today. So thanks a million to all our panelists for their precious contributions. So I'm still receiving via my mail, so questions. I think that you are able to motivate and stimulate our audience with all your tips and your success story, because it's also about success story. So thank you, and
thank you.
Bye. And so let's get started again with the last round table.
If I may add only one thing for all the attendants, don't hesitate to contact us, me, or all the panelists on LinkedIn or other social networks. I'm only on LinkedIn, and to engage if you have more questions.
Thank you. And maybe,
wonderful, thank you.
Who knows? Maybe Alpha Sigma, Merck, Stellantis, or Genopol, or even Simona will be higher. We'll be able to hire in the near future some of our PhD, freshly graduated PhD. Maybe, who knows? It's a question of being the right time, in the right place, the right time. Bye-bye.
Thank you all, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
And we're smoothly going to our next roundtable discussion with PhD holders working in European companies and institutions. We're just missing one.
Elisa di nuovo, Carol Cravero, Alessandro Liberatore, and Michael Julot.
We're just missing Alessandro, but maybe we can start.
We can start. So I'm really happy and honored to moderate our roundtables, and let me express my gratitude for our PhD graduates joining us now. One of the goals of our doctoral school is always to track the career of our PhD holders, to see if the PhD represented for them an added value, what are they doing today, if PhD leads to a better career. And the answer is yes, because we demonstrated concretely. And let's start with Carol Cravero. She's the testimonial also for co-tutel thesis, so a binational PhD thesis. She got a PhD in sustainable public procurement, and she embarked for an international career after many international experience. This is the key, I would say, the key message of her speech. And now she has a position at the World Trade Organization in Geneva. So thank you for telling us something about your story, your background. What are you doing now? How could you get this position? And what would you suggest? What would you suggest to our freshly graduated PhD?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Lucia, for inviting me and for this kind introduction. I will try to tell my story in a couple of words, maybe a little bit more than a couple, because I did quite a lot of things at the same time. So basically, I have a degree in law from the University of Turin in 2012. Then I passed my bar exam in 2015 after 2 internships projects, one at a criminal court and the other one in a law firm. Meanwhile, I started some international consultancies for the International Training Center of the International Labour Organization, which is the ITC-ILO in Turin. And basically it was for a master program in sustainable public procurement, les marchés publics durables. So this was mainly for African French-speaking countries. Let's say that over time, during these 8 years of consultancies, I had a kind of feeling. So I felt that there was a missing piece of the puzzle of my career, and that missing piece was a PhD. So I decided to start my PhD in 2017, so more or less 5 years after my degree in law, because I thought that for me to be recognized as an expert in the field, it was a very important step. I decided to have this, to enroll in this joint program, University of Turin and University of Paris, Paris 10, and it was really a great experience. I tried to assist and follow many conferences and workshops just to build my own network, as it was also advised in the beginning of this event. Over time, I had the opportunity to go to a new consultancy for the African Development Bank for the public procurement law reform in Senegal. And after this one, I spent 4 months in Ouagadougou, the capital city of Burkina Faso, as an individual consultant of the Ministry of Finance and Economy of Burkina Faso to carry out their public procurement law reform in order to incorporate sustainability criteria. And I was also a little bit lucky, let's say, as someone told before, you have to be at the right spot and at the right moment. So I knew that I was selected for this current position at the WTO in December 2021. So I started this new contract. I have a short-term contract, so less than 1 year. I'm working as a legal affairs officer at the World Trade Organization. As you can see from my background, I'm working specifically on government procurement. So this is my field. And we have a treaty on this. So basically my activity is to assist and advise governments, representatives of different governments, parties to our agreement in their negotiation process. And what I really like is the fact that I'm at the heart of the multilateralism, where decisions should be taken and sometimes are taken. And so governments and representatives have to sit down around the table, discuss, exchange, find a compromise, and find an agreement, reach an agreement whenever possible, even on sensitive issues like sustainability. So sorry if it was a little bit long, but I wanted to just share my story. I don't know if you have more questions for me, Lucia.
Yeah, so one question is what are the skills you acquired during your PhD? I think that the take-home message, listen to you, is an international experience pays off in your case, the PhD and an international experience, because your PhD was also a co-tutel, binational. Yeah. So what are the skills you think that helped you to arrive, to get such an interesting and important position?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. In fact, I have to admit that I've learned a lot from my PhD. For instance, how to take criticism, because as you know, a thesis is not only the result of your own research, but also of others' constructive criticism or comments, feedbacks. So how to handle with these criticism or feedbacks, how to get stronger when whenever you receive a criticism, how to convey messages in a clear and hopefully concise way, how to stand up for your position. These are important skills that I acquired during my PhD.
And what about the network? So the network was in percent. How would you rate the importance of the network in your career development?
It's very important because in the past, what I was used to do was to share my CV with some colleagues and then with my network, because what I think is that opportunities do exist and there are a lot of opportunities across the world, but sometimes we don't know that they exist, or on the contrary, recruiters don't know that there's a good fit somewhere in the world. So it's very important to have a network, and my network was important, especially for my consultancies activities. It was really a very important part of my career.
There is a chat. So what about the recruitment process? How can you apply for a position in the World Trade Organization? Because it is difficult for us working in a complete different context to how to
yes.
arrive there.
Yes, each international organization has its own portal. So you have one for the UN system, one for the WTO. In this portal, all vacancies are published, so you can have a look at all of them. And if you are interested in some of them, you can apply. So the recruitment process is a little bit complex in the sense that it's a multi-step process. So first of all, once you are interested in one of them, you have to send your CV through this portal. If you are selected, then after a couple of months, there's a written exam. The written exam is usually based on the position itself, so it's content-based. To give you an example, in my case, it was on sustainable public procurement. If you pass this written exam, then there's an oral exam after a couple of months again. The oral exam can be made up of different sub-steps. One of them is a short presentation, usually a 10 minutes presentation. You are given the topic the night before or even a couple of hours before the oral exam. So you have little time to get prepared. But I would say that the most challenging part, at least to me, was to answer these difficult questions on soft skills. They are usually very interesting in knowing how you deal with difficult situations. For instance, you can be asked how you have dealt with a difficult conversation with a colleague, or whenever you receive a bad criticism or a negative criticism, what is your reaction? Well, whenever you receive this kind of question, you don't have to, let's say, provide a kind of statement, but you should be able to provide a concrete example, a kind of scenario with a lot of details. So if you are not able to provide a concrete example because, for instance, you have never experienced before this or that situation, you can also be honest and say, well, it never happened to me, but in the case, I would act in this or that way. The most important thing to know is that there is no one single answer that is okay, that is acceptable. They just want to know how you can deal with difficult situations.
Soft skills. So you see that the importance of to train. So you have to be prepared.
Yes, indeed. And by the way, there's this website of the UN system, which is called Inspira, INSPIRA, and you can find a lot of videos, tutorials, and guidelines on how to deal with this difficult selection process.
Okay, maybe at the end of your presentation, could you put it in the chat, because it is very interesting. And two last very quick questions. So pros and cons of your position, of your work, because you decided to move to other contexts, to also to live abroad, and a final tip in 2 3 words, maximum 3 words.
Yes, I will start with the first question. There are a lot of positive aspects in doing this kind of job. Even if sometimes I miss a little bit the research, so I'm not able to say what the future will bring. So let's see, I'm just trying to enjoy also this experience as much as I can and learn a lot, because we can always improve and always learn from all experiences. In 3 words, I will say resilience, never give up. In my case, how can I put it? I try to apply for different positions, and I also received, of course, as everyone does, I received a lot of emails of rejection, and this might be frustrating, and it was frustrating for me as well. But I try to not to see this as a failure, but more as an opportunity to rework my CV, because basically it's not only a matter of who you are, what you can do, but it's also a matter of how you explain this. So this is, yes, my key message.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you for writing in the chat.
Yes, sure.
Because it will be of great help. And now we have Alessandro Liberatore. Huge big thanks for another reason, because he woke up very early. He is now in Pasadena, and it is very early in the morning. So we are really grateful. Our gratitude goes to Alessandro for joining us. And Alessandro, PhD in physics and astrophysics, postdoctoral research fellow at NASA in Italian with Jet Propulsion Laboratory in the United States, Pasadena. And so thank you for telling us something about your postdoctoral career. But how could you get a position as a research fellow in there? What are you doing? What are the perspectives and the skills, the most required, the most required skills for your current position, and the final tip?
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present myself and my my career, my academic career. And yeah, my academic career starts in Turin with a bachelor degree in physics. And just after my PhD, my bachelor degree in physics, I did an internship at KTH in Stockholm, in Sweden. It's still in physics, working on what will be my master thesis, focus on astroparticle physics. Then I start my master degree still in Turin. I come back in Turin, working on particle physics, where I had the chance to perform a new internship. And so you can already start probably to understand a key point, in my opinion, that is the international experience. And during this new internship, I work in Košice, Slovakia, the space physics department, working on what will be the field of research of my PhD that was focused on the heliophysics, so the interaction between the sun and the Earth in my particular case. Indeed, during my PhD, I performed at the National Institute of Astrophysics close to Turin, in Pino Torinese, working at the observatory of Pino Torinese. And there I had the opportunity to develop my skills that were extremely necessary for my actual position, that were for sure ability of work with different tools, IT tools, so different programming languages, and also deal with different problem. Every day there was a different problem to deal with from an experimental point of view and a theoretical point of view. Indeed, peculiarities of my actual position in JPL is that there is a very dynamic environment. Every day you do something different, of course, focus on the project you're working on, and you must be prepared. So problem-solving skills are very fundamental for those are interested in this kind of job. And you also should be prepared to a very, and this is probably, I don't know if it's pros or cons, but is highly competitive environment. Every week you have to demonstrate that what you did during the week, but is strongly compared with what is performed by other students at your same level. And the contracts, there are different contracts in JPL, but the most common ones are the 1+1+1. So every year, both you and JPL must be on the same line and decide to continue. So there is an highly competitive environment, definitely. And as said, making international experience with several, I would say, with different people can definitely be useful. For example, to apply for JPL, you need 3 reference letters at least. And of course, it is important who can write to you these letters. And during my master's degree and PhD, I had the opportunity, for example, to work with an astronaut and with also ESA people. ESA is the European Space Agency. And you have to demonstrate to these people that you had the possibility to work with that you are good at your work. So make your network, because it's fundamental. And I think that in a nutshell, you have just to dare mighty things, because sometimes people say, no, I cannot apply to this position because it's too much for me. It doesn't exist. It's never, nothing is too much for you. You have just to believe in yourself and try. In the worst case, you just tried a new job interview, and you can just develop your skills in job interviews. So try and believe in yourself.
Maybe how could you get this position? I mean, was network useful for you? How could you define this such a...
Yeah, I found this position because there was an internal mail at the National Institute of Astrophysics, where I perform my PhD, where they asked for a postdoctoral fellow in astrophysics at JPL. And then I checked online the details about this position, in particular on LinkedIn, and then I decided to apply. I saw that there was something like already, I don't know, 10, it seems, person that applied in a few, and my network was extremely useful for 2 main reasons. One is because, as I said before, it was necessary to have some letters from them. I needed someone to ask for this letter that can guarantee for me. And another important reason is that for my particular case, I had to demonstrate that I can give them something more, cooperating with others. For example, they need some data, some experiences that just the Italian group in this case had. And I focus my attention on this pros, because if I could work with JPL, I could help them with some data that otherwise they were take a lot of time to be analyzed. And that's the two main reasons. Of course, there will be also other ones, but for me, there were the two main ones.
And what about, so two last questions, what about the recruitment process? How did it work? For if there is someone listening to you now who would like to try, and a final key message you could give to young PhD students at the end of their career PhD program and in search of positions.
Yeah, there's a link online that is called NASA Research Position. And it's not just for JPL that is part of NASA, but there are different centers. And you can saw there all the vacancies, the open vacancies to apply. And once you apply, you should again send your CV, of course, and the recommendation letters. Then there will be a first screening on the prerequisite, and then in my case there were two interviews online. The first one more focused on my past, so what I did, my experience, and the second one was more about what I can do for JPL, why me? And this again is about what I said before, so the importance of networking. And this was in my case, the process. I'm not sure that if is the same for every position, but I think that for a postdoctoral fellow is almost the same. And in a nutshell, I think that my tip could be make international experience. I think that was the key feature of my CV that was really relevant for win this position. I have a lot of international experiences, and I think that are the key definitely to be able to win different positions, especially outside Italy. I mean, your country, of course.
Yes, yes. And so, well, I think that it is crystal clear that to get such a position, you prepared, you had a particular CV. So it's a journey, so like a self-journey, but it's really PhD and the preparation of your career. It's a journey. And so our take-home message today was also another one. You can do whatever you want with your PhD if you decide to move to other contexts. For you, it's research, but not in academic context. Thank you, Alessandro. Maybe thank you if you can reply to our question in the chat. You can if you can reply. Thank you so much. And now we have Elisa Di Nuovo, PhD. This just in brackets. We decided to invite also a representative, a testimonial for humanities. If PhD is poorly understood or regarded in outside of academia in Italy, for humanities, it's even more difficult to demonstrate that PhD is an added value, and even to build a professional profile. It's really difficult, but Elisa Di Nuovo is the example of a success story, because with her PhD in digital humanities, so an interdisciplinary PhD, innovation language professional. She is now an innovation. She's working at the European Parliament, so an international career again, innovation language professional, speech to text at the European Parliament. And so thank you for telling us something more about your background. How could you get such an interesting position? What are you concretely doing at the European Parliament with your background? Was your PhD a precondition or an asset? And what advice would you give to your young colleagues? Okay.
Thank you, Lucia, for your kind introduction. So, as you said, I'm working at the European Parliament in Luxembourg. Right now, I'm in Turin instead, because just yesterday I defended my PhD thesis that was in digital humanities. And yeah, usually PhDs, if you have a PhD in something related to humanities, it's very hard to find a position in industry or in institutions. But I have to say I was in the right place at the right time, because to get this position, I just replied to an email that was sent to my research group here in Turin. They were looking for a computational linguist, and then I had 2 interviews. I had, of course, to send a CV, and then after 2 interviews and maybe 2 months to hand in all the documentations that they need to verify if you can actually be the person they are looking for. Then I was there, and I was there the day after I finished my scholarship. They waited for me because they were looking for someone just before, and they were so happy to have me, because I'm not, as you said, my study was an interdisciplinary one. So I joined my passion for linguistics with what it is very popular nowadays, that is computer science. So my PhD was in between computer science and linguistics and foreign languages. So I had to learn a lot by myself, because usually, at least in my PhD, there is no one there teaching you what to do. And you have to find courses that can be helpful for you. But it was very highly rewarding, because now I'm in Luxembourg. I am in charge of the evaluation of a tool. This tool is able to perform in real time speech machine translation. This means that it is used for accessibility reasons, and it allows people who are deaf or hard of hearing to follow in real time plenary sessions that usually happens in Strasbourg. And thanks to this tool, they can read the translation into their native language, because the tool currently works with the 19 languages, but at the end of the next year, it will cover all the 24 official languages of the European Union. I don't know if I answered all your questions.
Yes, so I have one question. So when we decided to invite Elisa, we found her position, her professional profile very interesting, because you think European Parliament, maybe I was thinking about translator. On the contrary, she's also a technician somehow for what she is doing, and so she can demonstrate, or PhD can demonstrate the employability for humanities as well. Anyway, if you are highly skilled, you can get this kind of.
Nowadays, you can have the same skills doing a master's degree, because in Italy nowadays, some universities offer courses that are in computational linguistics, which is the subject that I studied during my PhD. And nowadays, a lot of companies hire computational linguists. So if you are passionate of linguistics, then if you add the computational side, then for sure it's easier to find a job.
Yes, our alumni, our PhD graduates might also help us to better explore job opportunities outside academia. So digital humanities is an interdisciplinary PhD where linguistics is combined with computer science, and that's how you could easily found with such high skills this position. But it was you were asked for this position. Was the PhD a prerequisite, or were you or was it an asset?
No, it was an asset. Actually, for my position, the prerequisite is just a bachelor's degree. Mm-hmm. But in Italy, there are not bachelor degrees in computational linguistics. There are some masters that are starting like this year in Pisa, I guess, or maybe in Padua. There is also something, but not in all the cities in Italy. And I knew that in other countries, like in Spain, they had these courses just already 5 years ago. So what they needed was a computational linguist, because it was necessary to have the knowledge of artificial intelligence and deep learning in order to be able to understand what we can achieve with these tools, what we can ask to the external company who is developing this tool. And also to run some, compute some metrics in order to automatically evaluate this tool. But of course, since we are at the European Parliament, we don't use only automatic metrics, but also human evaluation, because we work with our translators in order to evaluate and have confirmation from translators about the quality.
Just reading commentary, this is a real example of opportunity creation, opportunity use. So exciting example, like it. Your final key message, your final tip. What advice? What kind of advice would you give to your young colleagues, and tips for early career researchers planning an international mobility?
About the second question, really, I don't know. But for the first one, I can say that if you want to work, for example, at the European Parliament, and you are not lucky enough like me to receive just a mail and they are looking for you, then you can apply for an internship, because each year there are 2 rounds of internships in the European Parliament. It is called Schumann Traineeship Program, and you can work there for 5 months, and if you're good, usually you can find a place there. So the majority of my colleagues have started being trainees, and now they have contracts. And
so this is good news. This is good news. So there is hope. There is hope for a permanent position for humanities.
And for research at the European Parliament, there is an institutional directorate called EPRS, who deals with research, because of
maybe
course,
could you put it in the chat, Elisa?
Yes,
because
sure.
maybe people can take notes. And thank you. It is very interesting, but we have another our last speaker. So, and you know, we have to not run. We don't have to run out of time. So thank you so much, Elisa. If you can write in the chat so people can take notes. And so Michael, I'm just leaving the floor to Michael Julot, PhD in materials engineering, global account manager at Automotive Europe. So another field, a completely different field, and so, but very interesting as well. So thank you so much for telling something more about your background, your current position, if your PhD was an asset or a prerequisite, what are the skills the most in demand in your field, and if you're hiring, what are the positions offered to PhD, and your final tip, both your final key message, general key message, and what are, okay, thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, good. So good evening, everybody. Thanks a lot for the invitation and the opportunity indeed to talk about my experience. And I remember some 18 years ago when I was a PhD, for sure I would have appreciated this kind of a conference. So yes, a long time ago, I had a PhD in material science in Grenoble area, so very close to the Alps, in microelectronics. Then I started a little bit working still in microelectronics, having, I would say, the usual way of move to professional life from a PhD, which is I started to work on my PhD topic. So directly involved as a project manager to develop my project with a specific tool supplier. And then I started to move to a completely different world, moving to Italy and moving to automotive world, starting to work as a quality manager, European quality manager, then moved to the dark side of the moon and moving to commercial position, being an affiliate Italian territory manager. And then now I was a global account manager because I just left my position and decided to go back to my previous passion, which is innovation, and go back to support people to work in innovation. So fresh and new from a few days ago. So for sure, I had the two cases in my professional life. The one that is very unusual, that I had the opportunity to work directly in the field where I was an expert, which is really, to be honest, everybody have to be realistic. It's a very, very narrow chance after your PhD to find something that is exactly fitting what is your expertise. So probably you will not work in your expertise, you will work in something else, and you have a lot of talents to do that. And you are prepared to do that. You are not, probably you are not aware of that, but you are ready to do that. And then I moved to something that was completely different, but nevertheless, using what I learned and what I developed during my PhD. All PhD, who some are a little bit more lucky, some are a little bit less, but you will face some troubles, unexpected troubles. You will solve them, you will find a solution. So you will show that you are able, you are developing your problem solving capacities. You are the leader of your own thesis, so of your own PhD. So it means that you are able to show also your leading capacities. So at the end, this is what what was appreciated, I would say, in my job, and when I applied to the job, the aspect I wanted to show to everybody is that indeed a PhD, it's a professional experience where you are somehow, you have a small company, your own company, yourself, and you do everything in your company. You manage your time schedule, you manage your program, you manage your budget, you manage your contacts, you manage your network, you manage everything. You manage your marketing, how you sell yourself, how you sell your project. So it's just a matter of, indeed, if I can give a very, very important message to all of you, is work on yourself. Try really to see in yourself what you learned, what you developed. You developed a lot of things, so don't limit yourself. Be proud of yourself and go for it. Network is key. Network is, for me, I think it's one of the most important tool, more than a portal for people selection, more than everything. It allows you, and we heard it many times before, to be in the right place at the right time. Because if you are not there, for sure you will not be selected. Maybe very often you will not be selected, but if you are not at the right place, you will not be selected.
So yes, thank you so much for your presentation and your pieces of advice. I think that it is true, network counts. Maybe more than 80%. It counts really a lot when you're building your career, when you're preparing your career, and even during your career.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have to work on how to network, but how to build a valuable network, and how to nourish it, how to maintain it, because it is not so easy, and you don't have to take it for granted. It's like a journey, it's something in progress, but it pays off it pays the time. So there is a final question for our panelists. I think we start again with Carol. Tips for early career researchers planning and international mobility.
Yes, that's a very
codes also. Sorry.
That's a good question. I would suggest identifying, first of all, research groups in your field you would like to work with, and try to list all of them, and try also to get in touch with professors or researchers working already in this context. And you can get in touch with them and try to ask questions, first of all, so that you can know a little bit their work and even what are the main rules when applying for an international mobility. So this is my piece of advice.
Okay, thank you. And now Alessandro. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you, Alessandro.
Okay, sorry. I was yes, I just replied, but in the particular case that you're interested to move in the USA, that is my case, I suggest you to look in details about the different visas, because there are very strictly rules, and you risk to be kicked out from the country if you don't respect them. And sometimes are not easy at all. For example, with the common visa that you have, you cannot apply for a green card or something like that. Otherwise, you cannot work anymore in the USA. And for sure, you could contact the relocation office of your agency. It's pretty common to have one here that will help you under different aspects, for example, taxes or other realities. And moving in a totally different country, such as USA, so very far from your home, I suggest you to move several weeks before the starting date.
Yeah, to prepare.
Yeah, you have to prepare yourself to the society, not only the work.
Be prepared and then keep on
And then
preparing.
you can focus on your work. Yeah.
Yes, otherwise you are not ready to work, to start to research, do research. It's
yeah, of course.
Elisa?
They already said two very important tips. What I can stress maybe is that maybe it's easier to go in a research group in which someone in your current research group or past research group, you know someone there. So maybe you could ask to your own network if they know someone in a specific research group in another place that you would like to go. So maybe this could make it easier.
Thank you. And Michael?
Yes, maybe two things. Probably I would say, if you are interested for international experience, there is a lot of opportunities nowadays with Horizon 2020 and things like this. So, I mean, you can take the leadership on this. You can be the one who promote this and have the opportunity maybe to start with, I would say maybe an international project that you can push. This is something that for sure have to be evaluated, and do not expect, I would say, that your laboratory director know everything about potential opportunities of collaboration. And secondly, one thing, once you are, because I already experienced to move to 2 different countries, once you move, be patient. You will have up and down. So usually at the beginning, everything is great. Then after a while, everything is not as expected. So be patient. You need time to adapt. And so it's part of the international experience to have up and down.
Yes, you have to take your time to adapt, to understand another culture, environment, to get used to.
It's a learning curve, like for everything. So it's a learning curve and it's up and down.
Yes.
But it's always, at the end, it's going up. So.
Any other questions from your side or from the audience?
No more questions. I think maybe we can conclude and go to the final evolution. What would you say?
Okay.
I think maybe the last question will be also for all speakers. Would you mind if our participants will get in touch with you if they have more questions on your specific position?
Of course.
Do it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, do not hesitate.
Because your professional profiles are all very interesting, different, but interesting. So this is really a demonstration of the broad variety of alternative careers for PhD. So to conclude this day, I invite you, our audience, to click through. Yes. Please read in the chat. We have already prepared a satisfactory service.
So, well, first of all, thank you to our speakers for this second roundtable, for your insights, and thank also representatives from the previous roundtable from companies for sharing information about your background, about the professional world in Italy, in France, and even beyond.
It was very fruitful and productive. It was with such precious contribution. Thank you for your really precious contribution, individual precious contribution, I would say, and insight.
And also for the audience, I invite you to scan the QR code or the link that I just put in the chat box. Go on the klaxon. The system will ask you just for to fill in a nickname, and then you'll see our questions in the seconds. It will be very quick. We'll but very useful also.
It will take
for
you really a few minutes, but it will be of great help for us to improve our coming edition next year, maybe on site, hopefully on site.
Yeah, so the first question is, how would you rate your readiness for trying the networking approach? When you put 1 star if you're not ready, and 5 stars if you're ready and eager. And of course, you can also put your feedbacks in the chat box. I already see some of your nice feedbacks.
In the chat, there are lots of thank you very much. The session were informative, encouraging. Many thanks from the public. I would like to thank the organizer and speakers for such an interesting information and tips given.
Yeah, so I see we can all see that there's the average note is quite good, 4.1. So it's good to start in networking, to value your readiness for networking. So please continue answering this question. I will move to the second one. Also the same, how would you rate your knowledge of company expectations and opportunities in the French-Italian area? Once again, 1 star, not satisfying, sorry for the typo, and 5 stars, very satisfying. And I can see also all of your thanks, and thank you, of course, for your kind messages. Very much important for us also to know whether this informational French-Italian day was insightful for you. Well, the average note, well, it's still going up also. For now, it's 3.6. Well, yeah. Oh, it's more than the average. It's good. So please continue also answering this question, and I will just launch the very last question just to see also a little bit of your qualitative feedback. Is this French-Italian day for early career researchers just in 1 word? How would you describe what did you learn from this day, or whether it's inspired you, any word interesting in the first one? Enhancing,
informative, inspiring, helpful.
Worrying. I hope worrying in a good way, that you worrying / motivating. You see, network-wise, wonderful, helpful, goes on the first place. Reassuring. Okay, well, it's very funny to see that it was advanced, worrying and reassuring.
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully we could help give them inspire them on how to move, to prepare their career, postdoctoral career path, network-wise.
Well, the time is up for this year session. So once again, well, ABG, the University of Turin, the French-Italian University, well, all, and I think also our speakers warmly thank participants, and of course our speakers also for their insights, and we're very hoping to receive some of your feedbacks later on. If you have further questions, either to organizers or to speakers, really don't hesitate to network also with us. Lucia, some few
Yes,
last words.
yes. My gratitude goes to ABG for collaborating with us every year. This is, and hopefully we will keep on collaborating and maybe organizing next year. So finger crossed, an on-site, because I strongly believe in network, but I think that it works well when we are on site. And so we're missing. So also these moments like coffee breaks, so you can practice when you are at work at the beginning of this experience. And so thank you very much to our speakers for the last session and for the previous session, because for their important contribution, for their tips, for sharing with us their interesting postdoctoral career path, and demonstrating all career paths for PhD. There are really many career paths for PhD, interesting, original, and when you are highly skilled, it always pays off.
Excellent. So thank you all, and good luck in your professional career planning between France and Italy and beyond. Yeah. So thank you and goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye, au revoir. Adieu.
Ciao, bye.
Ciao.
Grazie mille.